Finally today, just before the end of the year, I caught up with Dr. Dave Lalman, OSU Extension beef cattle specialist, to talk about the cattle industry and what producers may want to keep top of mind this time of year. We're joined now by our OSU Extension beef cattle specialist, Dr. Dave Lalman, to kind of reflect back on 2024 and look ahead to the new year. So as we think about the year that has been, there's a lot that we could talk about. A couple things come right to the top, how the industry is changing, and of course we talked a lot about drought on SUNUP this year.
Yeah, those two major impacts to the industry, and you're right, things have changed a lot and things continue to change rapidly. You know, one thing that comes to mind, Lyndall, is the continuous increase in carcass weights in cattle, you know, finished cattle weights and carcass weights. And of course that has impacts downstream. This last November we had a few weeks where steer carcass weights hit 960 pounds. And that appears to be increasing steadily by the rate of, somewhere around 4.5 to 5.5 pounds per year, just year after year after year. Part of that is, this year in particular, is because we have the cheapest corn we've had since 2020. Recent costs of gain in the feed yard has been around $1.04, $1.05 for every pound of gain you put on, but cattle are worth $1.90. Okay, and so you get to the end of that feeding period, and there's that big difference. They're going to keep feeding those cattle and making them bigger. But of course, my interest in that is in our cow efficiency program. When you continue to aggressively select cattle for growth, carcass weight, you're going to make bigger cows, unless you have a real intentional program to control that in your selection. But cow weights are increasing on average, it appears, by about 7 pounds per year. So if we don't do anything different, and that trend continues in 10 years, cows will be 70 pounds heavier than they are today. And of course, when we have drought, extreme drought, that's important because, you have to, A, stock fewer cows on a given land base, and B, you have to depopulate more of those animals, bigger animals, when we do have these extreme droughts.
As we think about drought, we got some nice rain late fall, but as we know, that drought can rear its ugly head pretty quickly in Oklahoma, especially in a La Nina year. What's on your mind? What's on the mind of producers as we get through the winter?
Well, we've had lots of issues related to that. I mean, first of all, we entered the year with relatively low hay inventory, and so hay costs late last year were really expensive, and then we had decent late spring rains here in Oklahoma to sort of help us recover from that, and so hay prices have kind of gone down here later in the year, which is kind of odd, but they have. And the other impact of the drought this year is the real late wheat pasture, and so you've got limited number of cattle with record high prices trying to find a home. And in Oklahoma we that's one of our primary enterprises, and so the value of those calves makes that wheat pasture extremely valuable this year. And again, it's limited, and so supply and demand, the cost to graze cattle on wheat pasture is substantially higher than probably we've ever seen it before.
Speaking of cost, what about vitamins and other supplementation, when this time of year, but then especially if it's going to be a little drier than we want it to be?
Yeah. Well, let's start off with folks that are grazing cattle on standing forage, maybe lower quality forage, which is very common. Many yearlings are wintered that way, and lots of cows are wintered with a bit of a protein supplement and standing forage or low quality hay. Well, in 2023, soybean meal, that's kind of a good barometer of protein prices. Soybean meal in January was about $488 a ton. 2024 January is about $333 a ton. Right now, it's about $290 a ton. So, you know, very cost-effective protein availability, if you will. Anytime we have drought, or anytime a producer is grazing or feeding low-quality forage, you just anticipate that the concentration of carotene, which is the precursor to vitamin A, is going to be low in that forage. Even late summer standing forage is low in carotene. And so after we've gone through a couple of years of drought, it seems like the concerns, the issues, reports to veterinarians and our nutrition community increase over time related to vitamin A. Well, what are those reports? Well, early born calves, real short gestation periods, maybe stillborn calves, substantial amount of diarrhea in baby calves, those kind of things are all potential symptoms of that problem. Keep your mineral and your feeds fresh. Don't store them somewhere for a year and a half to 2 years before you feed those, and then consult with your veterinarian about other opportunities to make sure that doesn't happen in your operation.
Well, Dave, thank you so much to you and the beef team for all you do for SUNUP throughout
Absolutely.
the year, and
Appreciate
Happy
you
New
guys.
Year to you and your family.
Thank you.